Good morning, everybody. I don't know if you noticed, but we have a special guest today. I know I told some of you, a lot of you, that she was coming to visit. So I love that we're sitting really nicely, and I love that we're listening, and I love that we're being polite. Well, let's keep doing that during this whole presentation. I would like you to say in your proudest speaking voice, welcome Rachel DiNunzio.
There we go. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. It's so good to be here. And thank you all for coming to talk to me today. So I have to tell you, Miss Flynn and I started talking about this, maybe in February? Yeah. Something like that? And she said, okay, so when you come, I'm going to have two groups for you, okay? One's going to be the kindergartners and first graders, and then one's going to be some of the older kids. And for the older kids, you got to put together a really fun, special presentation. And she said it would be really cool if you could tell them all about kind of the inside scoop and behind the scenes action to how books are made. So I have been so excited for months because I've been working on this presentation super hard, and I could tell you all about how books are made today. So we're going to do like a behind the scenes of what it's like to be an author and illustrator and how actually books are created. So I've been going at this for a little bit of time, and I figured I would try to put together something to show you how ideas go from being just an idea all the way into a book. So how does that sound? Sound good? Thumbs up? All right, let's have some fun. So creating a book is a long adventure. Actually, some of these things can take years to create, like long time, so you got to kind of stick with it. And what happens is first things first is you have some kind of idea. And sometimes you have a lot of ideas, and you got to know which ones are the good ones and which ones are maybe just what I call backburner ideas. Things that you can kind of, put up on the wall. I'm famous for writing things down on a Post-it note and putting it where I can see it, and maybe I'll revisit it later in the future. But there are certain ideas when you're a writer and you're a creator that will stick with you. That will be on your mind when you're brushing your teeth and when you're doing all kinds of stuff that you're just thinking all about this idea. That's how you know it's a good one. After that, what we have to do is we actually have to write the story, or what we call it in the book world, we have to create the world. So the really cool thing about being a creator is you actually get to create a world that hasn't yet existed until you came up with an idea. After that, it's called fleshing out the story. So you create kind of bullet points of what's going to happen, or you have like one little essence of an idea, and then you have to create all of the other words and all the pictures so that the reader can actually follow along with what's going on. After that, guys, I have up here, the next step is proofreading and editing. Let me tell you something. I have a team of 10 editors that I work with. This is a long process. And they go through and they mark things up and until it's nice and perfect. Then the book is ready to go. So that's a big part that I work with a big team to help me out with. Then there's a next stage, and after the book's ready to go, we create something called the final book dummy. And the book dummies, and I'll go through these, but when you're actually creating the book, you create these little mock forms of the book so that when you're going through, you can understand what the illustrations and what the text will be like, and you can mark them up as you go. And that's called the book dummy. After the book's done, you submit it either to a publisher or an agent or a small press, and that's what I work with. And then after it's all done and you have these really cool books, you got to tell your friends about it, and that's the marketing stage. So that's the very last step. Now, today, I want to talk about one of the first steps in this process a little bit. And that is, once you have the idea, like, how does the book come to be? And we're going to look at two books together. We're going to look at Chameleon Cat and Be Kind, because these two books came out in a very different way. They came about actually, Chameleon Cat started with the idea for Olive, that's Olive there, the chameleon cat, and then Be Kind actually started with the story first. So I wanted to walk you through that process and tell you a little bit about what those different processes were like. So let's talk a little bit first about Chameleon Cat. All right, guys, so it all starts with an idea. Here's how Chameleon Cat came to be. So if you look at these pictures up here, where there's lizards and a cat, so growing up, that kitty right there, her name's Violet. She's one of my kitties. And I grew up with her. She's one of my buddies. And the cool thing about Violet is when my family got her, she was what was called a feral cat, okay? And a feral cat means she was completely wild. She was this little wild, half-grown kitty who was kind of like having a fox in the house. But we adopted her because she was sick and she needed a home. And the cool thing about Violet, though, is you can kind of see how she's all these different colors. When Violet was our very first indoor-outdoor cat, she would basically follow us wherever we went. But when Violet was outside, if she was super still and she wanted to, she could just blend in. She had this natural coat that she just looked like light outside, and it made her really hard to see. So that always kind of stuck in my mind as a really unique trait of this kitty. Then growing up, I really loved the lizards, like a lot. So much so that top one right there with the orange on his back, it's not really a fun name for a lizard, but it's called a Snyder skink. Pretty silly name, actually, right? A skink. A skink is the closest related relative to a snake, only it has arms and legs. And actually, it has this really neat defense mechanism that if you hold his tail, he can actually shed his tail so that he can get away. Which I never wanted to actually hold it because it made me panic a little bit. And so I just was really nice and petted him all the time. So that was Snyder. And then on the right-hand side, those are called anoles. And I had a lot of anoles growing up. So my big brother one day, have you guys ever been to the Old Homestays Festival on Main Street? Yeah, hands up if you have. Okay, so one year, here's my story with that. My big brother and all of his friends went and biked over there, and there was this guy there was this dart game, but the prize were anoles, were lizards in these little tanks. So my brother and all of his friends felt really bad for these lizards. So what did they do? They played the game until they won all of the lizards. Okay, so this sounds like a really neat thing, but then what are you going to do with all the lizards? So they brought them home and literally gave them to my mom and said, here, take care of them. And so needless to say, my mom is one of the kindest people I know. She took them all in, put up this big aquarium, and we had anoles. And does anybody know the really cool thing about anoles? They change color. So anoles can change color to match their surroundings. So this was kind of my environment growing up, is I love lizards, love kitties. Next, when I was in college, I got this super special box of colored pencils. It's this wooden box. Here it is. Here's the actual set. That's what those are. And these are called aqua monolith colored pencils. It's kind of a mouthful. Aqua monolith colored pencils. And these special pencils are cool because they're actually watercolors. So when you draw your picture and then you take a wet paintbrush and you brush over them, you can create really cool illustrations like this lion. So putting all this together, after I did this lion illustration, the lion and the mouse, and he was this super colorful lion that when he was hanging up in a gallery at one point, people were just attracted to him and loved his colorfulness and loved how warm and happy he was. And somewhere along the line, between looking at my pencils and this background, this idea popped in my mind, just like this one. And it was, what if a kitty could change colors to match her surroundings? And that's how it happened. And that's when I had the idea for Chameleon Cat. So I was actually in the middle of writing a paper, and I grabbed a sheet of paper. This was the very first sketch. I was actually in the middle of, I think, writing a paper on Italian Renaissance history, and this came up. And I just sketched out my idea so I didn't forget it. So I could just put it aside and hopefully quiet the idea enough to finish my paper. And this was the first concept for a Chameleon Cat. I knew her name right off the bat. I knew her name was going to be Olive. And I always wanted to name a character Olive. And I knew she would be this cat who could blend. So I developed it. And I created this next sketch. And this is, so when you're drawing and you're creating a character, as the creator, you really have to get to know who you're creating. So this is sketch number 2. And I thought, well, so what is this character going to be like? I drew this and I scanned it to the computer and I changed all the colors. Is it just that she has stripes and she can just literally change colors? Like if she was in a purple basket, she turns purple, a yellow basket, she turns yellow? Or is it more than that? Is it that she can actually take patterns and take what's around her and actually add things into her fur? So I need to figure that out. So something you do as an illustrator, and when you are an artist, the best possible thing you can do, what the masters used to do, is it's called drawing from life or drawing from a reference, okay? So what that means is if I wanted to draw, let's say, for Scarlet Symphony here, which is a book about a little girl, I needed a lot of pictures of this little girl in order to draw all 32 illustrations of her. So I had to go and take those pictures. When it came to Chameleon Cat, I couldn't really go out and find a chameleon cat. So I actually had to create something I could draw from. So I sculpted these really rough sculptures of Olive, and this is Clyde the chameleon, and so that I could draw and see, is this who I want this character to be? So when you put I took pictures of the clay sculptures, and then I would draw, this is called concept art. And this is the first meeting between Olive and the chameleon Clyde. When they first see each other and go, whoa, who are you? And they say, who are you? It's this cool part of the book. And I thought, is this what I'm looking for? And I'll be honest with you, I put it up on the wall. I had a bunch of illustrators, about a classroom of 20 illustrators. I put it up on the wall, and I just wanted to see what they would think. They were like, it's cool, but they all thought it was just not friendly enough. So I went back to the drawing board. And this time, I said, okay, what if I reverse it? What if I make this a little bit more lifelike? So I made more sculptures. And this time I tried to take some more components of a more kitten-type physique and an actual chameleon, and I created this concept of them meeting for the first time. So this one was good, but I still just wasn't feeling it. This wasn't the Olive that was in my head, so I needed to go further. So between the two, I actually drew another sketch of Olive. I wanted her to be friendly and round and a kitten and something that you would love to hang out with. So I started to redraw Olive, combining the two together, and made the final illustration for Olive and Clyde. And this is what they finally look like. This is Olive the chameleon cat. Now to do these illustrations, this is the other thing you have to develop is, how are you illustrating? It's called traditional. Are you doing everything on a piece of paper and then just scanning the final? Are you going to be using the computer? Are you using paint or colored pencils? You have to make all these choices. So for Chameleon Cat, I actually started every single illustration on my easel. And I did about 50% of it drawing with colored pencil on my easel, those aquaman with colored pencils like I told you about in the beginning. Then I scanned it into a computer, and I actually finished the illustrations on my iPad Pro using an Apple Pencil. So that bottom picture there in the right, you can find me looking like that a lot of time, hanging out, doing all kinds of drawings. So this is what it looks like when the illustration comes together. I'm actually going to show you step by step of the illustration coming together. This is the iPad. And then that's the final book page. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, pretty cool. So the other side of this is once I had this character complete, once I knew what I was doing for the illustrations, then the writing came. And I just wanted to show you guys what drafts of writing look like. It actually looks like your papers, right? Like when you type things out. And then, see all the writing on there? There's a ton of editing that happens. And actually, once you're writing, remember I told you about those dummy books? After a while, you need to see what it would be like in order to flip through it. And these crumpled up pieces of paper that have gotten a lot of love and exchanged a lot of hands, these are the dummy book illustrations, so that you can actually see what it would like to go through the book as you're editing. And then this is actually the handmade version of the book that I put together myself, actually to show other people and get feedback for the very first time before it was ready for printing. And then there were 10 versions of this book before Chameleon Cat, the final version, which you see right here, was actually born. So that's all that it took to create this book right here, Chameleon Cat. What do you think? Pretty cool? Yeah. All right, so let's talk about another story. So that was how Olive came to be, okay? We started with this character and created a story around Olive, a world around Olive. Be Kind, on the other hand, this one was a little bit different. So what happened with Be Kind actually started, so here's the story. I was actually teaching a class. I was teaching a class of adults, and I was teaching a photography class at the time. And there was a man who was in the class who was just not so nice. And he took some pictures of things that were actually just pretty mean to lions and to some other animals. And it kind of stuck with me, like a lot. And it actually stuck with me for weeks. And I just couldn't shake this thing. And so it stayed in the back of my mind. And I wanted to figure out, what could I do? What could I do to make the world a better place after meeting this person? So I thought about it for a long time. And it was actually when I was in another class. It was super early in the morning. I think the class started at like 7 or 7:45 in the morning. And I was always known for keeping Post-it notes in my back right pocket. You would always see me walking around in school or in my classes with Post-it notes in my back right pocket and then a pen hanging as well in my pocket. And it popped into my head to actually talk about what I would like the world to be, and that was a world filled with kindness. So this story actually entered my head, and the best way I could describe Be Kind was the verses literally just flowed through me. It's kind of like a faucet was turned on, and I just couldn't stop writing. So what I would do is I actually, throughout my day of classes, as my students were working on their projects, every time the verse popped in my head, I wrote it on that packet of Post-it notes. And by the end of the day, I actually had Be Kind written out on this packet of Post-it notes. It was kind of this amazing thing, and that's where the writing came from. So I took what was on the pack of Post-it notes there, and I typed it up and created, I needed to see what this would be like if you flipped through it. So I quickly typed up all the words, and I made this itsy-bitsy tiny book that would fit in the palm of your hand, and I had to read it. I just felt the need to read it for the first time. So I did that. I created my little book. That's actually duct tape that I used for the binding, just because I needed something to bind this together. And then what I did is I had to start working out what these illustrations would be. So once I had the text, I worked out what each page would look like. And when you do that, they're called book maps. What you actually do is you put all this paper out, and you do what's called a thumbnail sketch, an itsy-bitsy sketch of what each page could look like. And for each page, you have about 25 or so designs, and we pick the best one. And that's how book pages come to be. At one point, I'll tell you, and this is something a lot of writers ask me, is that they say, because it sounds really like a nice and smooth process, everybody gets stuck. It's part of being creative that you gotta problem solve all the time. And it actually got to the point with Be Kind where I had this book written out, but I couldn't figure out the order of the pages. I couldn't actually figure out the order of the story. So what I ended up doing is I printed it out, I cut it all up into tiny pieces, and I laid it all out on my bed until I could place it in the exact right order. And that's how I actually figured out the exact right order of Be Kind. Once I knew what was needed to be on each page, you create these full-size sketches. So sketches go from being about this big to the actual size of the book. So this here is an 8.5 by 11 book, which means each page, this is called a spread, you actually have to create the sketch that's going to be that big. So after creating that, you have to create the final illustration. So here's one of my other problem-solving things that happened. So I created this sketch, guys, and the next step is that I needed a light board in order to trace the final sketch, and then I could do the colored pencil drawing on top. But there was a small problem. I didn't have a light board. So what did I do? I made one. So what I ended up doing, it was a super snowy day in the middle of January, and it was actually a snowstorm. While I was out, they issued a don't be driving anywhere type alert. But I had this in my head that I needed to do this. And you can do really cool things when you are motivated. And so I drove myself to Home Depot, and I thought, okay guys, how hard is this? A light board is simply a light and a piece of glass. So I walked around the whole store trying to figure out how I could make this light board. And I ended up in the window section of Home Depot, and I found this super cool window that was on sale. Nobody wanted it because there was like a hole in the side, and as a window it wouldn't work, but as a light board, it would be perfect. So I found this major feat of strength to, no joke, this window's like this big. It's almost as tall as I am, and it's huge, this double pane window. I dragged it home, somehow got it in my car. I still don't know how I did it. And I put it up on 4 paint cans, and then put a light on the bottom through. And that is how I made my light board. So it's still something I use today. I have the window just hanging out with all my work stuff. Whenever I need a light board, I just pull it out. So I created all of the final illustrations, and that's what it looks like. You have your sketch, you put it on the light board to create your final image. And then you're ready to illustrate. So with this one, I actually scanned it into a computer, and after this final sketch, every single part of it was done on the iPad. So here's what a page of Be Kind looks like. And then there's the final page. Pretty cool. There was one final thing that the book needed before it got together, and I'll show you, we're actually going to read the book in just a minute. But I couldn't figure out how to end the book, because with Be Kind, it's a book all about kindness. You know, when I was talking to one of my editors, she said, why does the book need an end? Shouldn't it be that you now go out and do? And she was right. And that's why I needed one more thing. And that's where I wrote something called the Kindness Oath, which we'll all do together in just a minute. So here's a picture of the Kindness Oath. And then it all came together. So, you guys ready to read Be Kind? See what it looks like in its final form? Let's do it. All right. Before we do, I want to ask you a couple questions. Okay, so let's warm up a little bit. So, why do you think it's important to be kind? Think about that. Thank you. Why do you guys think that it is important to be kind? I have a hand. We'll do it right here.
Because it's great to be kind because it's not nice to be mean.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't like it if somebody was unkind to you, so it's good to be kind to other people. You got it. Let me come right back here. Then my friend had his hand up for the first one right here. Here you go.
Let's be kind because you just can't be mean to other people, so you have to be kind, like, do stuff like be respectful, responsible, and also do stuff that is nice and good.
Oh, that's a great answer. So I heard a couple key words there. I heard respectful, I heard responsible. Why else do you think that it's important to be kind?
Like, if you're mean and if you like cut down the trees without like really thinking about it, animals could die from that.
Sure, it goes far beyond thinking maybe just about us, but all of our animal friends out there, right? Everything that's living. That's for sure a great answer. Why else is it important to be kind?
It's important to be kind to other people because being kind to them, in another time, they could be kind to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful response. Let's just do one more. I got maybe a friend in the back here. Why do you think it's important to be kind?
If you treat people how you want to be treated,
it's important, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you so much for that. So guys, I have another question that you can help me out with. Now this is the big one, so really, really think, okay? So think hard, think hard. Who do you think it's important to be kind to? Tricky, 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 tricky. My friend here, yes.
It's important to be kind to your family and friends.
Family and friends, those are two great ones. Who else is it important to be kind to?
Environment.
The environment. Okay guys, can I get a thumbs up if you think it's important to be kind to the environment? That's a big one, right? Okay, so you got family, friends, environment. We'll do two more.
It's important to be kind to everyone, because if you're mean, they will spread the meanness.
That's right. You want to spread only good things and kindness, right? Okay, we're going to do just one more. Who is it important to be kind to?
Everyone and everything, because it's rude to be rude.
There, I like it. Nice and simple. That's exactly right. It's important to be kind to everybody. We talked about so many great things in this group, you guys. We talked not only about friends and family, we talked about the environment. We talked about trees. We talked about being kind to every living thing. Can I give this back to you? Thank you very much. All right, we ready to read the book? Let's do it. All right, be kind. Come one, come all, to the most important idea of all. It is so simple, it's so clear. The trick is to hear. It's your job, my friend, to protect those who are smaller, those without a voice, to stand up, to act. You see, we make choices every day to be kind or turn away. Think, if you were an ant, you'd surely rant. If instead of stepping over, a Bigfoot bowled you right over. No matter the size, big or small, 9 3/4 inches, or 5 million and 2 feet tall, every creature feels, so we must protect them all. Think, here is to our 8-legged friend, the spider. Without her, we'd be none the wiser. For it is she who eats all the insects that buzz and bother. A job so important as that, and people just want to smushy, splat, even when you're minding your own business in your natural habitat. Understanding and kindness would be much better than that. Think, if you were a bee, you'd get such a bad rap, to be defined by only one fact, that tiny little stinger that sits on your back. But you are so much more. You should be something that all people adore. As a bee, you wish people would see that your job is to make sweet honey. And there is one more thing that only bees can do. Pollinate plants to give us food. You see, without the bees, there can be no flowers. And that is why we need to use all of our power to respect and protect these incredibly important insects. Think, if you were a fish, you'd want to say, stop polluting our water this way. Don't you see the oil and waste? Don't you realize it's in the food and water that you taste? Protecting our water should be priority 1. We can't make more, and we don't have a ton. Clean water, no oil, and respect for the sea is all fish ask of you and me. Think, if you were an eagle, or perhaps a seagull, how would you want people to treat you? Surely no chasing, yelling, or throwing rocks. Instead, you'd want peace and clean air to fly in for all of the flocks. Think, if you were a cat, you really hope that people would pet you softly, not pick you up and toss you abruptly. Warm and safe you'd like to be, not stuck outside in a lonely tree. Most of all, you want people to know all you are is love and trust, and really, just a great big ball of fluff. We must take care of our kitty cats, and there is simply no doubt about that. Think, if you were a dog and your name was Lou, how would you want people to treat you? Surely no poking, shouting, or being rough. Love and kindness would be the best stuff. And there is one thing that you would want most of all, to be part of a family, and maybe to play with a ball. Think, if you were a lion, and that was a fact, how would you want people to react? Hunting and shooting so you had to live in fear? Don't people know we only have a few left here? In the savannah, we can't ignore the most wonderful kitties we all adore. Lions are who we must care for. Think, if you were a bear, you'd surely declare that you were in need of some really great care. As a polar bear, you'd feel so ignored, to watch your home disappear from the world. Listen now as these bears call out, for if you don't listen, they are sure to die out. Think, if you were a tree, how would you want someone to be? Cut you down, pull your leaves, yank your bark off so that you will freeze? No, let that not be so. You need your bark to stay warm in the snow. Keep them safe, keep the air and soil clean, so we may forever enjoy what's green. Lastly, Think with me. It's important to be kind to everybody. Open your ear, and I'll be perfectly clear. We're all in this together here. So make a new friend. Give someone your time. Hold the door open. Smile, and be kind. It takes a big person to make this oath, to change their choices, to choose growth. I hope from this day on, your choices will be to be kind to everything and everyone. Even if you only do one kind thing today, that one thing will make today a better day. So if today there's only one kind thing to do, challenge yourself tomorrow to do not one, but two. Today is the day. You've got it. I feel it. You're going to be great. You're going to see it. Think, if one more person chose to be kind, what a difference it would make to change humankind. It is you who makes an impact every day. So be kind. Don't turn away. And now, my friend, it's up to you. What will you choose to do? Now, for this part, I need your help. We're all going to take the kindness oath together, okay? So raise your hand up, and you can feel free to read with me, and I'm going to read it to all of us, okay? The kindness oath. We, the people, have a choice. That's why we are given a voice. We can take action. We can stand up. We can really change this stuff. Take a second, say this oath. Let's move in a direction that supports growth. I choose to be someone I can always be proud of. Someone who tries to rise above. Someone not afraid to stand out. Someone who always does their part. Someone who strives to be the change, a leader who always leads the way. When it's hard to know what's right to do, I will spread kindness from me to you. Even when a challenge stands in my way, doing what is right means not to stray. Above all else, there is one bottom line, and that is to always, always be kind. Give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Now, I have one last surprise for you before we open up into some questions and answers. And this here, guys, is called a Be Kind Canvas. And the cool thing about this is, it's now yours. I'm going to leave it with Miss Flynn in the library. And then when she's ready, and you get to actually sign this because you guys all took the kindness oath. So let's give yourselves one more round of applause. You're such great listeners. Thank you so much. And I think we're ready to go with some questions.
So a lot of our classes just did this the last couple of days in the library because sometimes it's more fun to come prepared with questions. It can be hard to think of one right on the spot. So our second and third and fourth graders had a chance this week to enter some questions into our questions for Rachel DiNunzio bin. And we pulled out a few here that I think Rachel's kind of excited to answer. So we're going to start, we might not have time to do all of them.
That's okay.
But we'll start with a bunch up here. And I had a really, really good one. Where was it? Okay. First one. This is from Ella in third grade. Ella Jackson. Where is she?
Where are you, Ella?
Where's Ella? There she is.
Hey, Ella.
There's Ella. And Ella had a super important question for you. Do you like zebras?
Oh, Ella, I do like zebras very, very much. Yes, I am pro zebra. Thank you for asking. All right.
This is a nice one.
What do you have?
Challenging one. Might be a tough one. This is from Matthias in third grade. What's up, Matthias? All right. What do you think is your best book that you wrote?
Ooh, that is a really tough question. What do I think is my best book? So I gotta tell you guys, I bonded with them all because they're all kind of a part of me. My best book, my best book is probably Be Kind. Yeah.
It is. It's cute.
Thank you.
I do have Chameleon Chat though.
Thank you.
I have to get Chameleon Chat for the library. All right, next one. Super important question. I was wondering this myself.
Okay.
This is from Elena in third grade. Where is she?
Elena, where are you? Hi,
There she is
Elena.
over there. And Elena is wondering, What is your favorite spaghetti sauce?
Elena, so
That's a tough one.
in the last group, I got to start out by telling you my favorite food of all time is spaghetti. Okay? So I have two answers for you, okay? I grew up in a household where we made spaghetti every single Sunday. So my favorite spaghetti sauce is my mom's. But if I had to go out to eat spaghetti, my favorite is Chef's Restaurant. That's my all-time favorite place. I'll go there all the time.
And this one kind of goes along with your book,
Okay.
Chameleon Cat. This is from Layla, who I think is probably right next to Elena somewhere, because they're like, oh no, she's over there. There she is. Layla, there she is,
Hi,
purple
Layla.
shirt. Elena's wondering if Layla's wondering if you could, would you get a chameleon?
That's a good question. So as you know, I do love lizards, and my cousin actually has a chameleon, and it's really, really, really cool. His name's Fred. And I gotta say, yeah, I would absolutely have a chameleon if my kitties would be friends with him. So that would be the kind of thing.
Tough one.
Next
Next question from Robert Coyle in 3rd grade. Where's Robert? There he is. Hi, Robert. Robert wanted to ask, what is your favorite card game?
Ooh, my favorite card game. So, you know, Robert, I grew up playing a lot of cards. My grandma's a big card player, so when we used to go over to her house, we would play cards all day long. And, you know, my favorite card game is probably, has anybody here ever played Rummy? There you go. My favorite card game is Rummy. Yep.
All right, let's see here. Ooh. Oh, this is a good one. This is going into a little bit of publishing.
Oh, okay.
From Katie in 4th grade. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Katie had a really thoughtful question. She asked, who is your publisher, or do you have multiple publishers?
That is an awesome question. So here's how this works. So it's been a while. So my very, very, very first book here was Scarlet Symphony. This is the very first one out of the gate. This one was a very small publisher in printing press in South Carolina. And since then, I've experimented with a whole lot of things. I actually started my own press to do one series of books in order to do this project that's called Radish Lane. And Radish Lane is that all of my books are actually taken and put into a digital and interactive format, so you can like see all the pages come together, listen to all the pages. And the idea is that I wanted all kids to be able to have access to all of my books whenever they wanted. So that publishing happens on radishlane.com. So that's that there. And then I am working with other publishers as well to create some of the other books. So your question is right, that you work with kind of a team of all different kinds of people to get this stuff done.
All right, I think we're going to do 2 more questions.
Okay.
Next one, very important. Everybody always likes to know this.
Okay.
This is from Adele in 4th grade.
Yeah.
And Adele would like to ask, what's your favorite color?
Ooh. So my favorite color of all time, that has been since I've been little, is yellow. Yellow. You got it. That's right.
Okay. Last one. This is like a author question,
Okay.
because we've met some authors, we've read a lot of authors. Celine in 3rd grade wanted to ask, do you know J.K. Rowling?
Oh, so Celine, that's an awesome question. I personally don't know J.K. Rowling, although I would love to meet her. We actually, in one of our local author groups, just met her editor and publisher the other day, so that was pretty cool in and of itself. That's as close as I've ever gotten to J.K. Yeah.
We have to stop there for questions, but here's what we're gonna do, because I know a lot of you had some awesome questions up here. There's even more in the box. And I was talking to Rachel about this. And this is what we're gonna do. Where are my 4th grade Twitter interns? So There are some fourth graders, if you've done it in the past or if you're doing it now, fourth graders who go to Miss Perna, they're working on a Twitter internship. We have Forest Kid Tweets. Rachel's gonna take these questions home, and her idea is she's gonna make a video for us, and she's gonna answer a lot of them. And she'll send us the video. She might tweet it out to us or send it to us somehow. So my Twitter interns, we'll work a little bit on that.
We can talk back and forth this way, and you can keep asking and answering questions. So don't worry if you have more questions. I'll be sure to answer them. You guys can use your Twitter interns to tweet me, and I'll be sure to answer back.
Boys and girls, can we give one big round of applause and say thank you, Rachel?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Right now, everybody turn your head, only your head, no other body parts are moving. Turn your head, put your eyeballs toward your teacher, and your teacher is going to tell you when it's time to stand up. Thank you for being such a great audience today.